An error occurred in the output.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I'm gonna just refresh and see if we're streaming. Hello?
Anything's possible.
It says
Not
that you
seeing
guys
any-
are talking.
Errors in the output.
I'm seeing a live.
I'm seeing a live too.
Interesting.
Oh, let me check.
Hold
I
on,
didn't
let me
see
just
one.
unmute this real quick.
It should be live. Yeah, it says we're live.
Yeah.
Oh, oops, we did it again.
Oops, we did it again. We are indeed
We are live, yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
Streamlabs is lying to me. Let me just go ahead and...
Lying to your face!
Lying to me. Streamlabs OBS, I will personally 1v1 fight you. Let me just go over to Twitter real quick and put this link out there for the folks. In the meantime, hello. Welcome to the Season 4 Midway Q&A live stream. That never gets easier to say. We gotta think of some snappy titles that aren't songs. Okay.
Hello, secret
Secret
pre-tweet
pre-tweet
gang.
People who have notifications on YouTube.
The real ones, as we like to call them.
Yeah.
I assume that everyone here just perpetually has a tab open that's out on the Rolling with Difficulty YouTube channel live tab, just waiting in anticipation.
Reloading every 5 minutes just to be sure.
That's how it be. Yeah.
That's why I can't stop checking my phone all day.
Yeah?
I don't know
The
about
only
you
reason-
guys.
Yeah, definitely.
It's terrible. I
Yeah.
have such a phone addiction.
It's-
I mean, like we all do, obviously, but
Oh, I just noticed that there's
Posted.
no Finbar in the thumbnail.
It took a lot of
No.
I made that thumbnail about 2 minutes ago, and it took a lot of trials and tribulations internally to decide whether it should be Voss or Finbar on the thumbnail, but it feels right.
Yeah, speaking of trials and tribulations, Star
Okay,
Trek as they're
actually,
diegetically introduced.
now that
I told
I
you.
have
I told you it was gonna come
successfully
up.
Later.
tweeted the link to the stream, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Hello everyone and welcome to the Q&A live stream. We're halfway through season 4. We're so excited. Thank you to everyone who has emailed in questions for us. Feel free to drop questions in the chat. We will get to them when we get to them, and if we don't get to them, you can always email them to us afterwards, and we will do our best to get to them. I know we have not been great about that in the past. I promise we're working on it. But to kick us off, I am just going to pull one right from the email just so we can get going. This question comes from Victoria. I've started playing D&D because of you guys, and it is so fun. Do you guys remember your first ever character, or have that one crystallized moment that fills you with happy nostalgia and is always included when people ask about your early days? You know, that moment you can point to and go, hell yeah, here's why. May the stars guide your way, and the winds always fill your sails. Thank you, Victoria, for a very fun question. So to kick us off, does anyone remember their first D&D character?
Well,
I've talked about her before, so it's not as interesting.
Well, diegetically, leading into our next gimme conversation, it's funny that that's mentioned because Baldur's Gate,
there it is.
I made as my character, my first D&D character. He was a human bard named Ganymede Valento. I can't do much to adjust the background in Baldur's Gate, but in my D&D campaign, he was a circus boy who, upon like the ripe age of 18, basically, I think the whole conceit of my backstory was like, I don't really want a tragic backstory. I just want him to be like a fun, happy guy, and he just wanted something aside from the circus, so he ran away from the circus. And he has a mom, and they have a good relationship, and she was encouraging. And then like 3 sessions in, one of our player characters died, and then he got all like moody and depressed, because then I realized that this was kind of the first time he realized that this is kind of a consequence of adventuring. It seems as though a lot of my characters end up in that route, but
So this
I was gonna say,
is this
weird,
the evil mime?
yeah.
weird choice
No,
by
the
Noir
mi-
not to have an extremely sad boy to start with.
But yeah.
Yeah.
The mime is a different one. The mime's fun, but yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so.
Ironically,
Oh,
in
we
kind
do
of
love
a...
the mime.
I don't like the mime.
We love the
Skanda!
mime.
The mime is from a
Which was
home
their
game
first
that
character.
Austin, myself, and Noir were all players in. It was the first time Noir was not the DM for our particular group of college friends, and he played a mime character that my character did not get along with.
Well, yeah, he was
Granted,
intentionally
we
an
get
ass.
along with anyone.
He was intentionally an asshole. I think I've talked about it in a Q&A. It was funny
was fun.
because like we called the group the Broad Squad because most everyone was like
Everyone
a
was
female.
woman.
But I'm
Yes.
pretty sure my character was like a 40-year-old male
You
kind
were
of in
just
a
a
midlife
full
crisis.
man.
God. Oh,
Yes.
no.
That
So-
makes the evil mime a little creepier.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
A little bit. That
A
was
little
not
bit.
by intention, but that's
No, of
just
course
how
not.
it was
But
just
to-
how it ended up happening.
To bring it back around to first D&D characters,
Yeah.
in kind of a weird, like, I love playing goofy bards or like kind of like over the hill quiz kids and stuff. And but my first character was very much not that. I played every like edgy teens go to OC. Like I
Hell
was
yeah.
I was a drow ranger. My name was Dragon Slayer Cora, and I only used swords. And she
That's
just, I
very-
was just like, well, the whole
swords,
world
of
It
course.
takes
hates
a lot of
me.
skill to slay dragons with swords, because famously they tend to fly away when you do
It
that.
With
honestly,
scimitars and
I
your
have-
pet panther.
Yeah.
No,
I think
I
that sounds
didn't.
great.
I didn't go too far into the animal companion thing so much. I kind of went for the sword, and it was like, oh, well, all of society like rejects her, so she just made herself so useful they have no choice but to keep her around. Because who else is gonna slay the dragons? And it ended up being fun for the little game that we were. I think this actually might have been a Pathfinder character now that I'm thinking about it, but something along those lines of like pretty early TTRPG character.
Was Dragon Slayer a title, or was that
Yeah,
her first
actually,
name?
it's
Her
like an
actual
epithet.
legal
Her
name
parents were
on
just
her
very
birth
hopeful.
certificate.
Yeah. That's what I was
Austin,
thinking.
this is everyone's early edgelord character. Of course, she was an orphan.
Of course.
But the thing is, like, I've gone from that to almost exclusively playing like complete goofballs, and then somehow circled back around to
Yeah.
Dani in this campaign, and I'm like, oh, history repeats itself.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. What about
Wally,
Austin,
did you-
Wally,
you
Red?
had-
What you guys
I was
got?
gonna say, we had the same first character in the same first game, right?
Huh?
I say different first character. Our first characters were both in the same game. We didn't play the
Yeah.
same
Oh.
game.
Oh, okay.
I understand that was.
That
So
would've been
you
a
have to forgive
story.
me. I'm in week 5 out of 6 of a summer camp outside all day. This is my most tired
Oh.
that I am all year. So forgive me if I misspeak, but
I thought you were both like
yeah,
Jaegering
I
around
was-
one guy,
Nah.
drinking
That
Padma
was
style.
so good.
I was a tiefling paladin.
Ooh.
Hell
Named
yeah.
named Worth Wagner because I was
Yes.
like, this will be
Nice.
my
Oh, come
nightcrawler.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I made him a paladin because I rolled
Did he
a very high
teleport by any
charisma.
chance?
He did not teleport. I made him a paladin because I made him a tiefling, and then we rolled stats. I rolled a very high charisma, and my friend who knew the game a little bit was like, paladins use charisma. Yeah, well, first he said bards use charisma, and I was like, that sounds terrible. I would never do that. And then he said paladins use charisma. I said, that's awesome. So I chose paladin, but I had a 13 strength, so I never once hit anything, and I was always
Uh-oh.
very frustrated by the game. So when you ask about like that moment that clicked, it was actually my second character, which is in Noir's game, which is I was playing a druid, and I learned my lesson the first time. I went big into the Munchkin power game when it came to druid for this second character, and I remember the first combat where he had wild shape and I got to turn into like a panther or whatever it was, tearing it up, and I was like, this is the game for me. I've cracked the code.
I find
And
that
it took me
very-
a long time to unlearn that power game nature where I was like, what is the right choice? I need to deal most damage. That's how I have fun.
That's incredibly
Yeah.
funny to me because I think you and I had exact opposite experiences with like learning how to play the game, because I was basically like, oh, this is a dress up simulator. I get to put myself in fun outfits and go fight crime. And even though I was not an optimized character, it just ended up being fun because I got to put myself in outfits and fight crime. And you kind of had the opposite experience of playing an unoptimized character right out the gate of like, oh, this is not what I want
It
from
was
this
tough.
game. Now I gotta
Yeah.
completely go in the other direction.
I remember the first adventure was Storm King's Thunder, and the first adventure
Yes.
was freeing a town from goblins, and there was a goblin in this watchtower or something like that, or like the top of a grain silo or something like that was shooting arrows down at us, and I was like, why don't we just burn down this tower, because then he'll die and none of us have to go fight him. And everyone was like, you can't play a paladin if that's how you're gonna act. And I was like, all right. I guess I gotta change how I act.
Yeah.
Immediate
Uh,
oathbreaker.
Well, it was fucked up. I wanted to be a very nice, friendly guy, and then my friend who got me into power gaming was like, if you don't do vengeance, you're playing the game wrong. You got to do Oath of Vengeance. Vengeance is the only one to do it. And I was like, all right,
What?
vengeance it is. I guess he's an
Yeah.
evil guy now.
Oh, you poor
no.
child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wally, what was your first character?
My first character was a wood elf ranger,
Yes.
I believe, and I really wanted to like dual wield hand axes. That was the
Nice.
fantasy in my head. But on paper, one, at that time there wasn't like the Tasha's Rangers rules, so he was just terrible in combat.
Oh yeah.
And two, dual wielding hand axe is not a good way to go. Not a lot of damage when he did hit. And I just remember
We struggled.
yeah, we struggled quite a bit. And I remember he he was a bit of a loot goblin, and at some point he was just carrying around an ungodly amount of scimitars.
I mean, as
You
all
always need one
campaigns,
player
someone
doing it.
does.
Yeah.
Anything
But
can
you
be
were-
a thrown weapon if you have enough of them.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Red, I know you've talked about it before, but could you just quickly run us through your first
Well,
character?
But the thing is, I actually now can't quite remember which of these two absolutely ridiculous 3.5 monstrosities was my first one. Because I've already talked about how at one point I played a Werepanther rogue who got the Shadow Dancer prestige class, which basically turned her into Nightcrawler.
Yes.
Where you can teleport through shadows, and whenever you teleport out of the shadows, you get your sneak attack damage back. So she was a fucking monstrosity. But I actually think it's possible that the first character I made was a half celestial ranger rogue multiclass.
Nice.
Who actually had a kind of fucked up backstory when I like think about it in hindsight, because I made this character, if I'm remembering the order of operations correctly, I made her when I was 9. And if I'm not remembering that correctly, I made her when I was like 12 tops. But her deal is that half celestials were a 3.5 template, where one of your parents was like an Archon or an Aasimar or something. Not an Aasimar, sorry, those didn't exist in 3.5. Aasimars are the watered down compromise, because half celestials were busted as fuck. They had a there was a thing in 3.5 called level adjustment, where basically your base race could be so powerful that the DM had to give you less XP because you were effectively a certain number of levels higher than everyone else in your party. Being a half celestial basically just gave you a full suite of like paladin abilities that were just racial traits that you could use like 1 or 3 times a day, like protection from evil 3 per day, bless. And her deal was that like her mother was like this celestial from a higher plane, and her father was like this elven wizard, and they had basically both been like, we're going to make the most aesthetically cool kid together. This is gonna be great. And she was like, as like teen rebellion, she was like a rogue ranger, like I'm gonna rebel from this, I'm gonna go do my own thing. And that actually was almost a Planescape campaign of its own. My dad was running it, and we ended up basically the beginning of the campaign, we attacked this wizard tower that turned out it was a linchpin holding the Planescape together, and the entire multiverse exploded, and then we spent the rest of the game kind of rebuilding the universe. This is just kind of how my dad works.
Nice.
But we had a big flying ship spelljammer thing that we flew around on.
Super fun.
Yeah, God. Sorry, I didn't remember how much of that character sheet I had memorized.
You never do until it comes up. I think the real answer to this question is we all really enjoy D&D and have played many very silly and very cool characters over the courses of our lives. But to get to more questions, this one comes from the chat from Sir Lightning Potato. Is the speed Kyana pilots the Per Aspera affected by her barbarian levels?
So I saw that, and I was hoping to call that out because I realized I haven't figured that out yet. Because the notion that I don't think you guys have ever actually cracked why Kyana is so good at flying this. Like, you understand it's why she's psionic, but that doesn't just work for any spelljammer. I don't think you guys have ever cracked that egg. No, correct. That doesn't work for any. No, you guys have never bothered to ask. Which is fine.
I just figured
there's many
because
mysteries for this campaign you guys won't figure out because
I just figured she has the fucking psychic arms, and that's all. Like, oh, I was like, all right, sure.
Yeah, she's
magic
psionic.
monk. Okay, she's.
Why is she good at doing it?
We've only had 1 data point so far. We haven't let Ione try and fly the thing.
That's true. So anyway, the notion is being that she's psionic. I mean, you actually have more than 1 data point because Emerson was good at flying it as well.
Yeah.
And he was a scion.
Psionic.
But so does the barbarian still keep up? That's a good question because I think that the Astral Monk is, even in the text, psionic, but obviously the Ancestral Barbarian, which is what Kyana has multiclassed into, is not. But I think that we kind of express it as a psionic manifestation, so I would allow her to still be full caster level, capable of piloting the ship. I think that seems reasonable to me. I
Every
don't
day I
think
become
it
more
breaks
haunted.
anything.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and say that it doesn't.
The only person
mess
who's
up.
like slower at piloting the ship now that Finbar is gone is just it's Dani, because like
It's
Oh, yeah.
only Dani who's
it's
slow
only Dani
because
who's
yeah,
slow.
Voss is a
Ironically,
full
the
caster
person
as well.
most in tune
Yep.
with the ship itself is the one who can pilot it the least effectively.
I like to imagine that she's just constantly getting distracted.
The check engine light turns on and she's like, hold on a second, I gotta go now.
She actually has this whole other setup, like I don't know, flips like 180 degrees, like I don't have a point of reference. I don't know what I'm describing.
Inverted controls.
No, like it turns from like
That's what all
the
the pro gamers
traditional.
do.
It turns from like the traditional Spelljammer helm to like a fucking racing
did I
car
spoil
setup, and so
stuff?
you just drive it like a regular car.
You have to keep in mind we've recorded a lot of episodes. I forgot which episode we level up in.
Oh yeah,
It's not.
Oh.
It's
Might
not.
as well
It's
say.
after the next one.
that's
Ah.
fine.
All right.
Don't
so
tell
it's not-
anybody,
no.
guys.
so
Everyone
it's not
shh.
me spoiling stuff. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, every once in a while we'll just see something in the Discord. I'm like, how do they know that Roy's in the next episode? Oh, Wally spoiled it on one of his streams. But to get back to some questions, we got another one from the email. A question to everyone: since Finbar is retiring, do you have any favorite Finbar moments? While I'm gonna miss Finbar being around, I think it's a great choice to conclude his character here, and I can't wait to see what happens with Voss and the rest of the crew. I wanted to give a little love to our guy who I cut from the thumbnail like 10 minutes ago. So, yeah, favorite Finbar moments.
I'm dimsying the birthday party. That was awesome.
I was gonna
that
say
was so
Dancing
sweet.
Spider from also the same episode.
Dancing Spider's good. I
Dancing
forgot about
Spider
Dancing
is so
Spider.
good.
I think I like all the little moments where you just kind of like see where Finbar's just maybe a little bit fucked up like the rest of us. Like when Finbar he attunes to the fucking like tentacle whip thing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that was Finbar. That was just Wally.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
That was more me than Finbar, but at the end of the day, it's still a good moment.
You gotta have fun though.
Yeah.
It reminds it kind of like lends itself to like the subtle reminder that Finbar isn't just a chef, but he's also like a hunter as well, and he absolutely
that's-
has that instinct.
I was gonna come
so-
out and say my two favorites were whenever we get to see that like Finbar is like the dad figure. He's very comforting. He's the healer. He's support. He's always helping out everyone else. But I really like two moments come to mind where I'm like, I think people forget that one, he's part giant, which I think that there's a tendency in a lot of D&D games, which to each their own. This is a thing that doesn't appeal to a lot of people, but there's a tendency in a lot of D&D games where everyone is just like different colored M&Ms. It's like everyone. You're a tiefling, I'm a human, but that means the same thing. We just get different stat bonuses. And I like imagining that there is differences, and obviously a lot of those old the reason people steer away from that is a lot of those old differences are problematic. But in terms of being a Jotun, I like that means something, that he's rare, and like a Wookiee in Star Wars, where people are like, oh shit, I shouldn't mess with this guy. So I like when he was facing the giant and like getting his shit kicked in, because anyone else would be dead from facing the what was it, the Fomorian. And then I liked when he killed Endelion, because I was like, I like that everyone. I mean, I was sad with how that fight went, but I thought that was very cool to see that moment where everyone's like, oh, this is kind of weird, and Finbar was like, I've killed a lot worse things than this in a lot, lot less dignified ways. It's,
So we were all like, well, now
just
we
the
need
way
to
it
figure
goes.
out how to kill an unconscious guy without feeling weird about it. And
Finbar just went to work.
So incredibly funny
like
that you
that.
guys walked into that conundrum with open arms.
Yeah.
And can we talk about things went the way they did there because of a very interesting character choice where Sophia, you were like, I want Roy with me because I don't want any of the rest of these guys with me. Like my understanding was that Dani was kind of mad at the rest of them, and also has a connection to Roy about this stuff specifically because of Egan, where you were like, I want Roy. You took Roy with you, and as a result, it wasn't 2 people who went against Endelion, it was 3, and that really changed. Like imagine Virla wasn't there to counterspell, or Kyana wasn't there to put the heart down,
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Or Finbar wasn't there to actually like kill the guy.
actually,
or
if it
Finbar
was just Virla
and Kyana, like, I guess we
no,
leave.
You fucked up your crew. No, you're much better at killing things than me. Well, no,
we
I
hand the
insist.
knife to Roy and just like, you got this, buddy.
Dude. Yeah, no, that did.
But alternatively,
it did
He
change
gets the
plot
XP,
encounter.
levels up.
alternatively, if Dani did take one of us, maybe Amun would have still been alive.
That's exactly.
Don't talk to
More
me about
things would've
that.
been-
I'm so sad. It's
Or See, things happened in that cavern that no
They
one got
did.
to see because
They
no
did.
one was there. Because Dani had to escape with Roy. Roy had like 15 hit points or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
he almost went down even in the process of escaping. He got like almost all of his hit points knocked out by one slot
man.
attack. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, there's no game where Dani is staying in here. She's not picking Roy's life over a possible upgrade to the ship. And like I Sophia the player love Amon the Ancient, but like there's no world where Dani the character is gonna risk her like best friend's life for mummy
That's
guy.
fair.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. But no, Finbar's had more questions. Okay, this one comes from
You can talk about Finbar. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Austin has demanded no more questions. Let us The DM
Another
has
question and I'll
spoken.
eat my hat.
You owe us so many hats already. So the game Ronan in chat asked, do you guys take any inspiration from other D&D shows, be it rules, NPCs, or story beats? I mean, personally, I think much like with the movie podcast I tend to listen to and watch less other actual plays now, just because I don't want to inadvertently cop anyone's thing, you know? Like I think that there is a lot of entertainment in just playing the game and seeing where it happens, and we really don't plan things out beyond this is gonna be like maybe this episode we want to do this kind of adventure is the most of the planning that we really get into. So I do think that at least on my end there is not any intention to take too much inspiration from other actual plays. Obviously we work in the same setting as other shows might be on, so yeah, I can't speak to how much that overlaps, but from a player standpoint I'm not trying to do a specific story or specific story beats that might occur in other media.
I don't want to go on a tangent, but there's a very interesting conversation to be had about how creative inspiration actually works versus how I think a lot of people think it works. Because in my experience, it's a very similar process to like digestion. It's like you eat something, your body breaks it down to its absolute most fundamental components, and then reassembles it into something else in a process you barely see, but you notice the effects later. So like, but I think a lot of people are like, oh, you watch a movie, you're like, that character's so cool, I'll take inspiration from that, and then you pluck the character off the screen, put them in your own work, sand the serial numbers off, and call them original. And it's like, that's
Not how that works.
No, that's like ordering a steak and then taping it to your head and being like, I ate this. I don't know. So I think like a lot of us have, watched other people's actual plays. I mean, I definitely listen to a lot less now that itch is getting scratched in a very different way. But like, I still watch like Legend of Vox Machina. I still see a lot of the fan art that goes up every week when Critical Role does something new. I still check in on Dimension 20 and stuff. But like, I don't look at that and be like, I should make that decision, or like, oh man, I like that bit of DMing, I'll steal that for later. It's just my brain is learning from it, and then later when I come back here, it's got a new pool of just inspiration to draw from that I don't know exactly where it came from, but something refilled the tank while I wasn't looking. Yeah. So.
And this is not a comment on the quality of any other actual play. It's just our attitude.
I'm happy to have someone else calling out Critical Role besides me for once. We love Critical Role.
She wasn't though.
Great show. I know. No, I'm joking. It was nothing but nice things were said.
No.
That is a tough question though, because it's like I think largely you're correct. It's like I think everything's original, just some of it's been done before,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think like there probably is some aspect of some actual play, probably Critical Role, that I've inadvertently injected into Virla. But I mean, there were a lot of like at the beginning, definitely like a lot of center like points like to anchor points. There we go. Like Baymax was like a really easy one, but very quickly like Virla evolved past like just being a Baymax and kind of became his own thing.
He's above, become a legend.
But then retroactively, when you revisit media that you've watched before or were aware of, you kind of realize, oh, this is some pretty close source code for your character. And I'm getting that now because I'm like, wait, Virla's Spock.
It's always like so fun when you revisit something foundational and you're like, oh fuck, that's like a good 40% of my personality in there.
Oh dude,
I've described myself as just being every piece of media I've ever consumed in a trench coat before, and I think that this is applicable to every single person on Earth.
Yeah, me with
I know, I'm the same. I wish I'd picked a less annoying media, honestly.
Growing
up, I was like, who's a cool person I should emulate? Cody from Zack and Cody. Everyone finds him to be charming.
The next D&D character, right there, folks.
You know who everyone would love to hang out is Eric Foreman from That 70s Show. That's a great person to staple onto my personality.
Yep.
I guess it is interesting, though. I do want to like come at this from the perspective of the DM compared to the players. I think as players, we're all kind of on the same page of like, no, we're not really trying to be any one specific character. We just have character archetypes that maybe are common touch points. Like maybe Sad Wizards is not unique to our show, but it does not mean that we are trying to be a Sad Wizard, any particular one. But Austin, as the DM, like we do use some like third-party modules and stuff, or like take inspiration from other D&D creators who publish materials to use for playthroughs. Like how do you approach that as a DM, making a published show as compared to like a player who might just be trying to avoid, you know, copy pasting a character or something?
Yeah, well, I steal stuff all the time is the answer, but there's so many different ways that manifests, because it's taking character concepts. Like some characters, especially smaller ones, are you just rip a character personality from something else, and that's totally fine because that character is also not original, So that doesn't bother me when I consider. I'm trying to think of a good example now. I'm not sure that I can think of one. When I consider that, and also they evolve. When I consider that Cressida was originally, I was like, Han Solo. There we go. We're done. That's all I need to know. What would Han say? That's what Cressida would say. She's very much more than that at this point. But that being...
Was that a Ziggs I just heard?
Ziggy is here, yes. She's making her appearance. I started talking out loud into a microphone, and that apparently crossed the line.
That summons them, I hear. But to answer the exact question you just asked about like using like source material, I just try to make it specific to my setting. So because we're publishing it, I try to do due diligence about like changing names, proper names, making my own maps, things like that. But then, when I've used, for example, the Workshop Watches is an adventure you can get in Arcadia. It's one of their like most popular articles from the 30-issue run that thing had, something like 90 articles. It's an extremely popular adventure. Go run it. It's very fun. I stole that for the Emmy adventure. My own map, my own characters, but the entire concept was ripped right from there, and I gave them a shout out because I was like, they did a lot of the hard work, they did all of the concept, but also they don't own the idea of a magical AI that goes rogue, So it's all about when appropriate, because depending on how much you're using. In that case, I used quite a bit in concept, so shout it out there. And then make it my own because we're publishing it, and I don't want to just be using someone else's basically IP, whether legal or not. I feel kind of weird about that. So that's basically how I do it, and I steal lore and stuff, especially from MCDM, because I think they make great stuff. And if you've been behind the scenes of anything, that I'm always stealing stuff. Like if you just read the latest Patreon thing. If you're on our Patreon, you read the latest Patreon article. I talk about one of the characters that was at the party. Hero's party was like an ill rigger. That's a thing from MCDM lore, but I kind of took it and made it as like, these are like the nobility of hell, whatever. So I steal things and I try to shout it out, and other things are just when it's appropriate because it's hard work someone's done, and sometimes it's just conceptual stuff that I roll into the game because I think it's cool. And put the things you love in your game, because that's going to make you want to run the game,
Yes, it is.
The whole plot for this game is ripped off of that's not true. The inspiration for the entire story of this game came from a sci-fi book that I recently read like last year or 2 years ago or something like that. And if you can figure out what it is, you get bonus points.
To bring in another, I don't want to do too many questions about the wedding because it is next episode, and I feel like a lot of them will just be answered by the episode. But to take one to tie people over from Annie, Timmer, and chat is stranger invited to the wedding. I feel like this is an NPC I feel safe about saying whether or not they're attending.
No stranger, sadly. Stranger, I don't know how Stranger would react to that, honestly. Stranger is, like, I don't want people to think Stranger's their friend. Like, all these other people are their friends. I don't think Stranger's their friend. Like, they have a tentative
Maybe they
with
could
Stranger.
be.
It's in the name.
He's a stranger. If the queen isn't coming, I don't feel like Stranger has a place.
Queen isn't coming. I don't think I actually mentioned in the episode. This is also a spoiler. It's not a spoiler. I don't think I mentioned in the episode, but the queen did send a gift. Right. The queen didn't show up. Queen sent a gift. I actually have it in my notes. Let me see if I can find it.
It's like when people write
the
in
fucking
like Annie Ann,
billionaire.
like, oh my God, come to my
it
wedding,
worked.
and then their like assistant just sends them a gift. It works, even in D&D.
Exactly. No. Yeah. Hold on, I think I have it here.
In fairness, also, I forgot to
Queen Aveline of Licherwalth sent a
Oh.
golden comb shaped like a dragon with rubies for eyes.
Oh,
That's
so
pretty slick.
fancy.
So yes,
Yeah.
And baby photos, I'm assuming.
and baby photos.
Adorable.
Aww.
In fairness, I forgot to also like mention a few people. I think I mentioned it in the Discord like post episode going out, but like Virla definitely sent invitations to like the Sprite Spring, which is just a group that he didn't mention, but I wasn't sure whether.
And you'll get
stranger
to see
personally
all
got
of
an
the fun
invitation.
NPCs who appear in the next episode next week.
That's
So
yeah.
we're not going to talk too much about the wedding in this Q&A. I'm so sorry.
It'd be so easy to.
It was so much of
we
our
gotta
lives.
really avoid it.
So this question comes from the email and is for Noir. Now that Virla is a cleric, where did he get his vestments? Were they given to him directly by Mistra, or did he go to a temple in order to officially become a cleric? Did he make them? Did they just appear one day? Where did he get where he gets his look?
Does he have vestments?
Does he have vestments?
So the season 4 art that Wally made is basically, I don't think there were many changes done at all. I had a very specific idea of what Virla would look like now that he had kind of fully accepted Mistra into his life. And so a lot of it was like more wizardy robe like, maybe a bit heavier armor in the shoulders to kind of represent him being a bit more beefier cleric wise. I think the thing that, I don't know if he has vestments specifically, but like I had drawn the scarf such that like the two ends were kind of like draped down the front,
Very
kind of like a
Catholic of you.
priest's. Yeah, like a Catholic priest vestment. So that's just that. But if it wasn't clear from the gala episode, Virla endeavors to be dripped out all the time. So I imagine that he kind of similar to like what I did with Wally. Virla had a specific idea and just basically commissioned that to be made, and there he is.
Yeah, I do like all of our various approaches to Wally, very talented, does the official character art every season for us, and this season was, I think, the one where we had the most requests. Like, I was like, hey, could you do a version of Dani with the cowboy hat and one without the cowboy hat?
Yeah.
And as always, I have fun with the character art designs. And
well, speaking of the character art designs, we got a question in chat from Asto is tired. Since the crew is full of artists, what's your favorite design detail about your character? This feels related. Let's talk about the art, the character look for a minute.
Well, if I'm going to start, so for each of them, I felt Finbar was a little generic. He was kind of like this armored ranger kind of dude, but the detail of the shawl of leaves ended up being easily my best design decision. And hopefully you guys enjoy that as well. Dani's was a little tricky because on one level it was the color palette that we originally started with, and then it originally became blue, and I'm just like, this solves a lot of the issues that I was having, because there was a lot of reds, browns, yellows, and I'm just it all felt a little muddled. It felt like generic Genasi, but with the tattoos was really what gave her identity. And the second it turned blue, I'm just like, okay, all of a sudden I do not have to put an emphasis on the tattoos. All I have to do is complement the blues that she's got going on.
Now she's got a new distinct identity.
And she has a lot of toys and details to work with. So every time I do new artwork, I try to show off a new detail from either the cannons or plug, and that's a lot of fun. And then I can easily just round out. So Kyana is very simple. Red did a fantastic job with her initial design, and I wanted to keep as much as that as humanly possible with each iteration. So a lot of the vestments, keeping it tight, and I know people want one of the biggest things is the sleeves and for show off
the
her
lack
muscles.
thereof.
Or the lack thereof. So I do my best to show off either her arms at time and or her actual arms, as well as just her physique. You know, the huge con boost that we had in season 3 was an opportunity for me to push that a little more, and I think I had a really one of my favorite Kyana artwork that I've done.
Was that the butt one?
Yeah, that's the boat.
Yeah.
There was
like
a
that one a
time,
lot.
because that one and also Dani's a little bit came out, and it's like, oh, these ones are like hotter than the previous season.
yeah. I pushed it just a little bit. We could tone that back.
You gotta
And
give the
that's
people what
every
they want.
yeah.
What
And
about
then
Voss?
Villa's Voss.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. So the artwork for Voss was okay. How do I make him scary, but also not too much to the point where he seems like a villain. So it's I try to bring an element of goofiness to all the very intense design details that I had going on. Him being pale. 200% what I was going to do.
Nice.
And
He's-
obviously the black chitinous armor fused to his skin. Again, what I was going to do. Someone did a fantastic artwork for Voss where he had the dreads, and I was honestly considering that in the final product. But at the end of the day, it would have been annoying on my end to draw that every single time I did artwork. So I skimped out and I made him bald. Maybe he'll grow hair and we can do something interesting with that. But for the most
If he
part,
has to get revivified at some point.
yeah.
he's the Joker, baby. He looks like
I've
the
only
Joker.
played 2 D&D characters with Wally now, but both of them have been bald men, so I have to just assume that that's your like go-to, right? Like that's just the Wally default. Until I
Actually,
see
no.
otherwise. No.
It's
Actually,
tall
no.
guys. Tall guys is the
It's
default.
Well, that
usually
makes
tall characters, yeah. What was it? Annabelle was the ranger that I played, full head of hair. I played a Warforged, doesn't have hair. I played wizard, another high elf wizard, had hair. So bald
Wally
characters
was
was
definitely bald, I feel like.
Wallen was not bald. I think I gave him like
Bald?
no, he was not bald. But no, it just happens the 2 bald characters I play happen to also be on the podcast. So yeah.
My sample size is skewed. Personally, my favorite like Dani detail design. I mean, the tattoos were fun. I was like, this character needs something on their arms. It's tattoos. But Wally really took those and made them into something actually entertaining to look at. But I always really like the fire genasi hair. It's on fire. I tried to make Dani's more magma-like. Like, I like the idea of it underneath almost sort of looking like it's always dripping and, like, ooze-like more than a hair texture. And I even now that it's blue, I that's the thing I try to keep consistent whenever I'm drawing Dani. Is like, she's oozing.
I definitely get that vibe with Otto, because the dreads that you draw very lends itself well to like a magma kind of flowy sort of vibe.
I just think more people should have magma hair. I think it's rude that I can't in the real world have magma hair.
I know,
Well,
right?
You can, but for a limited time.
Extremely limited.
That sort of like peekaboo, like under dye pattern that people sometimes do, where it's like you can't see it from the outside of their hair, but like when they lift their hair up or like have a high ponytail, you can see it. It's always so cool looking for the one specific hairstyle it's designed for, and then outside of that, it's like it's rough, man.
Yeah. For me, Red's original, like, kind of piggybacking off what Wally said, I really like Red's original drawing for Kyana, specifically, like, I think you had made this note that she had, like, iridescent clothing.
Yeah.
I remember, yes, because you were anguishing a lot about how to portray that artistically.
I was curious about, sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'll just draw this, and then I'll pen to the paper. I'll be like, I have no fucking clue how to draw this.
Yeah.
It's always a really exciting opportunity.
And I don't know, like, that one detail, like, for me is, like, kind of solidifies Kyana's image very vividly in my mind. Like, that's the thing that kind of ties it together. For Virla and for Dani, it's the eyes, but for 2 different reasons. Dani, at least for season 1, has like these raccoon eyes
Those are
where it's
tattoos
like
that she has gotten under her eyes to make her look permanently tired. I love that detail.
that's the thing. It just looks like she's tired all the time, and then
I thought it was like when football players do the black to absorb light.
So
It should
Wally
look
has
in
started
brass.
adding the like full what's that called when football players do all the time? You put it under your eye, the coal looking
war paint.
Yeah, close enough. But like
I don't know.
that's in the character. The season 1, if you look at it, it's like, oh no, she just fully has like under eye tattoos that are made to make her look like she has eye bags all the time.
When I saw Pura in Tears of the Kingdom for the first time, I was like, oh my god, she's got Dani's eye makeup.
Oh yeah.
My fave.
And then for Virla, I didn't really have, like, my point of reference for visually Virla was like K2SO from Rogue One, just kind of like a really tall, lanky guy and with like that Star Wars robot where like the face itself doesn't really emote, but Wally added this really, really cool detail where the eyes themselves can emote. And the point of reference was Orisa from Overwatch. If you look at any reels of like what is it, like pre play of the game Orisa or whatever, you can you get a better deep sense of like how expressive she can be, and that is fully how Virla emotes and expresses himself. So like whatever you can see Orisa doing, Virla can like make those expressions as well, and that's really cool.
My favorite bit of a design evolution for Kyana is that when I first designed her, I was like, I'm gonna give her shorter hair. I'm gonna go outside my comfort zone. She's gonna have a little high ponytail, just a little one, and every season she gets more hair.
Yep.
I have almost no input on this. I never like redesign her clothing. I'm so bad at designing clothes for characters. I'm always just like, she's still got her regular gi and her wedding gi. This is great, and it just. So it's always fun when I get the art and I'm like, oh, sweet, I got new accessories. This rules.
And to answer the chat question, the art can all be found on Twitter. A lot of it's on our community tab on YouTube, as well as the thumbnails for those videos. Some of the season 1 stuff may have been posted mostly on Twitter and Instagram, just because it was before we started doing the YouTube uploads. But you should be able to find all of it, either community tab on YouTube or Twitter.
I think Instagram is
Instagram is well as well.
Yeah.
Another question from chat from Co. I'm thinking of making timestamps for the show in the comments section of YouTube, like Flando from Critical Role. Would you guys be okay with me making timestamps at the start and end of ads and breaks? If you want to comment timestamps, you are more than welcome to do so. I know we don't have official ones attached because these things are quite long. You're welcome to comment, whatever. If you want to comment timestamps, go crazy. Have fun with it.
Yeah.
It might also help retroactively if any of us need to kind of look back at a previous episode and wonder whether or not we have a limbo tuning fork or something like that. That might
Yeah, right. The amount of times I've had to go back and try to find a fucking detail, I'm like, oh man, I know that I say that one thing here somewhere. It's somewhere in this half hour.
Debating that mid-episode, and I'm like, oh, I just haven't edited that one yet, so the information is not on the tip of my tongue because I have not re-listened to that particular episode yet.
That's the worst too, is when an episode's not out, and I'm like, what did I say last episode? I can't go back and check.
I have on multiple occasions, like if I knew that I was the one saying it, I will go and pull up my audio specifically and try and like scrub through. The thing is, I don't have a sense of timestamps, and it's going to be long stretches of silence followed by me making a comment here or there. So I'm like haphazardly trying to like scrub through the thing, not knowing whether I've passed it or if I've just hit a point of silence or anything like that. And
professionals.
Yeah.
All the time.
We're playing an improv game. Of course we're going to make up stuff and then forget about it later.
No, every time.
We are but humans.
We can
every
break
time
our own
something
canon, it's fine.
Every time something like this happens, it makes me want to revisit the perpetually ongoing transcript endeavor that is definitely happening. It's just happening very slowly because doing transcripts is so slow. I can't keep up.
But to get to more questions here, from the chat, T-Day, random question, what's each character's favorite color? Rapid fire, everyone. Character's favorite color. Gold.
Blue.
Red.
Red. For boss.
What about Finbar?
Of course it is.
Oh, purple.
Nice. There you go.
Rad. This one comes from the email. Is Dani's Baronium Fluctuator a homebrew item? I've looked for a description, but I can't find it. This is probably an Austin question. I don't know.
Oh yeah. No, it's not a homebrew item. It's a multi-tool, all-purpose tool.
All-purpose
tool. Found. Yeah, all-purpose tool +1, I believe it is, which is an uncommon item found in Tasha's Guide to Everything. Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, excuse me. So it's a regular artificer item. You can get it, but I like to give my magic items because I don't like the idea that there's just a million of those out there. So I like to give my items like their own names and lore and stuff like that. And so Baronium Fluctuator, I think I mentioned this past, is named for Edgar Rice Burroughs, the author of the John Carter trilogy. Yeah. So
very cool. Yeah, it's a real item. It's just named funky. This question.
I've been reminded as well.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, please.
Real quick. Going back to the whole timestamp thing, I'd also like to shout out Raregull. He's the moderator for the Rolling with Difficulty subreddit, and he hasn't caught up. He hasn't done all of them, but for a fair few of season 1 and season 2 episodes, he has constructed they have constructed their own timestamps. And you can find those posts on the Rolling with Difficulty subreddit. And so,
I love reading through those because their descriptions of like the individual moments are always just very funny.
Yeah. It's very much like the Critical Role timestamps. And so, as opposed to starting right from season 1, that might be a good place to start off as well, or even add to the endeavor at the subreddit.
Yeah. This question also comes from chat. It's from Mask of the Red Inconvenience. I'm wondering about how in Season 4, Episode 4, Dani looked into the magic disco ball and came out having figured some stuff out about herself, especially after Episode 3 of Season 4. What specifically did she realize about herself in there? Part of this is just D&D magic bullshit, because I was not ready to stare into a disco ball and be like, oh, Dani's had a realization. And then she got 2 charisma points, so I'm like, oh, something has to have happened. I think that
we talk about pondering the orb, but like we're never ready for it.
I mean,
Sometimes
it's really.
Oh my god, she did do that.
It's some wizard bullshit. Dani wasn't ready for that. But Dani has a very internal kind of motivation in many ways. Like, she doesn't have like external villains in the way that a lot of the other crew have in the proverbial Virla season or proverbial Finbar season or whatever. But I do think that like there's a certain amount of introspection that goes with that even if Dani is not constantly faced with it, she's doing. And I think that what was unique about episode 4, or what I have made in my mind to be the reason that it was unique in episode 4 after gaining 2 charisma points out of nowhere, is that she just had a moment to like actually sit with herself more so than coming to some new conclusion. I think it's just that there was an opportunity to actually be in her mind and be in her zone and in control of her situation enough where there was nothing external that was distracting her, right? So more so than like, oh, I've had this huge epiphany, it was just like, oh, I actually have the time and space to coalesce my thoughts into a single thought and make sense of what I've been feeling, more so than
That's
like...
fair.
Yeah, because honestly, Sophia the player was very unprepared to suddenly be like, oh, wow, character moment, oh god, okay.
Sometimes it do be like that.
Surprising, But that's the fun. That's the fun of those moments. I think is getting to choose what it means in the moment, and then even kind of retcon it yourself, because we are improvising, right? So, I like challenging players with that, and like immediately, like, how does this? Because I think a lot of players end up thinking they're either stuck in the. They think about it kind of nebulously, and so when you sort of surprise them, throw them off what they were expecting to do for their character, you'll see more of the character come through because they have to adapt and make something up, as opposed to being stuck on like, I know what I'm gonna say as soon as and thinking about that for like a long time during a conversation, then finally getting able to say it. I think you get more interesting things when you surprise them.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, as a player, it's definitely like, it's a little challenging, but also I think it's the kind of challenge that you can really like bite into and make a meal out of. Like, it forces you to think about your character in a moment much faster, and I think that comes to in a way it forces the player to come to the same realization that the character is coming to, just at speed.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something very fun about that. It's not a playstyle that works for everyone, but it's something that Austin and I both seem to really enjoy, so it's been fun. I can't believe she pondered an orb.
I know. And by the way, if you failed that check, it was a DC 25 insight check, and I knew Dani had bad wisdom. And then it was you would either gain, I think you're already proficient in insight, that's how you rolled so high, but you would have gained expertise in insight if you wanted to like learn more about other people. And then learning more about yourself was adding 2 to charisma, which I knew was a thing I could put in because no one is a charisma, obviously Voss is now, but no one's a charisma-based caster. So I knew that I could introduce this free stat buff that is extremely overpowered without breaking the game, because I wasn't worried that a sorcerer or a bard was going to come in and for a free roll the d20 get +2 to their main stat. So I knew we weren't breaking anything. But you could have gained a flaw if you failed, such as compulsive liar, fear of magic.
Oh well.
That one would suck.
That one would suck.
Greedy.
Nah, nothing would change.
That would
suspicious.
be
Wow, is Dani flawed?
Does she get retroactive points for just being like that?
Lower the DC because I just already have that bad.
Would be.
No, I think it was fun to be, however briefly, the high charisma character of the crew. Oh man, we got more questions coming at us from the chat. Hold on, I'm just scrolling. Everything's happening in real time. All's well, all's good. This question comes from Anime Lizard 1. Mirror Universe, your characters now have a different subclass. What would you choose to play around with? So we all keep our same main classes, but you get a little funky subclass to play around with.
Let me just look up some subclasses.
Yeah, I need to look up the subclasses.
Artificer's pretty easy because they're so incredibly...
Three of them? Four of them?
Yeah, there's three Artificer subclasses, I think. Is there a fourth one now? There were three when I made Dani.
Artillerist, Alchemist, and Battlesmith.
Yeah. I think it'd be fun to play around with Armorer. I don't know if it would fit for Dani's character, but obviously that's why I picked Artillerist. I do think Alchemist, having now met the Doofenshmirtz of this campaign, would be incredibly funny. Like I do think it'd be really fun to go for the Alchemist angle and get to play with like brew making and kind of having, it's the same sort of like idea of like a repertoire of things you can do, but it's just flavored a little differently and there's sort of different mechanics going into it, and I think that could be really fun to play around with personally.
Counterpoint, Battlesmith, and then Plug gets to actually be in the fights.
But it's so much better that Plug just throws up on things instead.
I do love Plug for that reason.
Yeah, Plug is a very important character, and I know that he doesn't really do much, but when he does do things, it's always great, so it's fine.
He's holding down the ship. What are you talking about?
Yeah, he's the captain.
He does everything. Yeah.
Okay. I have found that this does not surprise me, because if you look at all the monk subclasses, it's just things that they stole from different kung fu movies and anime. That said, Way of the Ascendant Dragon, if Kyana had gotten adopted by a dragon instead, then that would have been pretty fucking sweet. And basically it's the same gimmick, except instead of getting like astral armor, you get dragon powers.
Yeah.
And that's just fucking rad.
Have you considered, though, Way of the Drunken Master? Kyana goes on one party in the Feywild and completely changes subclass.
Oh, the temptation.
What about our resident... Wally, you really have, like, a true a la carte of options here. Like,
see, the problem is I insist on playing these heavy multi-classes.
You have four classes and you're two rolling with difficulty characters. You can pick any of them, I assume.
Let rapid fire. Okay, Finbar, if I had to change him away from Swarmkeeper, he would have been a Hunter Ranger, and I would have changed out Stars Druid for Shepherd Druid. Just having the totems would have been fun. To redesign, or no, never mind. I take that back. Wildfire Druid, to match the cooking theme a little more. Nice. So being able to summon a little fiery guy, just to have another pet on board would have been really fun, really cool.
Yes.
Yeah. May all your bacon burn.
And then for Voss is kind of. We haven't seen too much of him, and I haven't really gotten a chance to think about how I would change him up. Obviously, in terms of keeping like a melee bard around, it would have been from Swords to Valor. And then in terms of sorcerer, I'm kind of stuck on keeping him as a Divine Soul sorcerer, only because I get a lot. Having access to the cleric spell list is kind of why I picked that. The only other option would have been probably, I don't know. See, I can't pick anything else without stepping on toes, really. No, it would have been it. That's it.
Yeah. What about Virla? Yeah.
I guess if Virla like wanted to lean really, really into the whole lightning motif, then he would have gone evocation. But like, a thought happened in my head of like graviturgy. Maybe narratively, that's like him. I don't know, fiddling with like the gravity aspects of the Spelljammer and like fucking, I don't know.
Oh yeah,
we
did talk about that actually. I feel like I pitched you like, I don't know what kind of wizard. I pitched you 3, I think, that were like kind of like physics, Spelljam, kind of sci-fi vibe. And this was obviously Scribes was one of them, but then I think I also pitched Chronergist and Graviturgy from
those Chronergy and Graviturgy were the two that I was like, yeah, that's probably Virla. as Mirror Virla, so there we go. And I'll add evocation there as well.
Kind of going into more class stuff coming from chat from Mask. Speaking of classes, actually, since Mandy is a potential character if Dani dies again, what class, subclass would they be? I'm assuming rogue, but any particular kind. Your assumption is correct. Mandy was my back of mind, like, oh, if something goes horribly wrong in like season 1 or 2, I guess I have a backup character ready to go. And I think that they were going to be a rogue, as expected. I love playing a mastermind rogue, but I think realistically they're more of an acrobat or maybe a swashbuckler, just something more action forward.
Classic.
Swashbuckling rogue is so fun.
Swashbuckling rogue is so fun.
I'm playing one in another campaign. I'm playing with some other friends, and oh man, you can just do sneak attacks because I think
yeah, that's it.
Because like one of the things that you get as a swashbuckling rogue is like the one condition under which normal rogues can't do sneak attacks. I think like as long as there's no
fighting a creature.
Yeah, as long as there's no one within no one else within 5 feet of an enemy except for you, you have advantage on the attack or you get sneak attack. Which like normally you need to have someone next to the enemy in order to get sneak attack.
Rewarding you for being like, this one's mine, boys.
Basically,
Basically.
Swashbuckler's extremely cool.
And kind of related to this, the Orb is asking, since everyone else in the group is multi-classed except Dani, what secondary class would she take if she had to? And as for the others, what would you pick as a third? For Dani, it'd be Rogue. Like, I think I mentioned this before, but like, Street Rat Riffraff,
that's
like,
fair.
it just makes the most sense.
Dani
as a
would
character.
fuck up as a rogue because
man.
stupid gone. Fucking
every day that I
for
choose
sneak
not to
attack 'cause it's a
multi-class
ranged
is
weapon.
another little gift to Austin.
Oh, but it would be so funny though.
Yeah, it's fine. If you start dealing even more, I mean, as it is, you're already a huge target for bad guys because they come onto the field and you do a huge thing and they're like, "Let's get her," and you have 30 hit points. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Rogue would just draw them even faster.
This is a principle I believe in against all others, and it is that it is only fair and right to be balanced in D&D in some way. It's why when we rolled stats, I didn't roll below a 10, and I asked you if I could make one of my stats a 9, and you said yes. That's why Dani's wisdom is so low. And equally, like, yes, she does a lot of damage, but it is only fair and right that she also could go down in a single hit from just about any goddamn enemy we fight at this point, and I think that balance is what makes the game fun. Because if I was just, like, a tank also, that's no fun for anyone. It's only good because Dani does basically go unconscious round 1 of every fight.
I disagree. As the person who has to carry you out of those fights.
But we bond. It's so good. While we have Austin in DM mood, though, we got a question from Wolfsification in chat. Austin, it's been known that monks and rangers are not that viable in 5e. Did you modify the monk and ranger abilities for rolling with difficulty to make them more viable? And if so, what did you change? These two classes do have something of a reputation of not being as optimized as other classes, so is there anything that you did change when we were going into our monks and rangers to optimize them in any way, or to change the way that they work in 5e?
Yeah, I think I've talked about this a little bit. First off, someone mask pointing out that yes, Mandy and Davian would both be tiefling swashbuckler rogues.
Two very different flavors on the same concept.
Who are you? I'm you, but better.
Okay.
Just the Spider-Man pointing move.
But to answer the question quickly, I have talked about this in the past, so you can check on past Q&As. But basically, I have a lot of problems with monks specifically. Ranger got a quality of life improvement with Tasha's.
They're in a decent spot.
I hope this doesn't come across as rude in any way, but I trust Wally, I've been playing with for a long time, and is somewhat of a power gamer also. I don't have to worry about, like, when he was like Ranger, I was like, okay, he understands what he's getting into. But I know Red hadn't played 5th edition before, so when Red was coming to 5th edition and you were very strongly wanting to do a monk, I was like, that's awesome. Let me do a little quality of life improvement to make sure that you're not frustrated by that. And basically, I think the main thing I did was just make it so that Step of the Wind does not require any key points.
Yeah, there's a couple of my bonus actions that don't cost key points. I think I can bonus action dash or dodge for free.
Dash, dodge, or disengage are all free things, which also rogues can do with cunning action without any resource cost. It's totally insane to me that they made monks do that. I've had this argument with friends before where they're like, well, dodge is better than hide. I'm like, it's not, because dodge, you roll at disadvantage, and hide, if you succeed, which if you're a rogue, you're succeeding, they cannot find you at all. They can't roll to hit you. So it's crazy to me that monks have to spend a resource that they use to power all of their other monk things to do this thing that rogues can do for free. And it's why rogue 2-level dip is so incredibly popular with monks. So that's all I did, really.
Was there anything that you did for like the synergy between the monk
and there was a thing I did, but that wasn't to improve quality of life for monk. That was to, and I think rules as written, it technically makes sense, but basically, Kyana gets to count her strength in place of her wisdom in place of her strength for certain stuff for being a monk, and she gets to use it for the same things for barbarian. So, for example, when she makes a reckless attack, it says when you make a strength-based attack, she is making a strength-based attack because, according to Astral Self Monk, you are making a strength-based attack but using your wisdom modifier.
Yeah, we talked that one through when I said I was interested in multi-classing a barbarian.
Yeah. So that
and
works
I was
totally
like,
fine.
because I kept being like, I don't know, this feels kind of broken and like too good, and you were like, I promise you that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you guys are incredibly powerful, but that's just you guys have reached level 11 too, and that is, or what level?
We're at 10.
We're level 11.
As of now,
yes.
we are at
You guys are. But either way, at this point in the game, once you reach double digits, combat balancing starts to get really off the rails. Also, this season, Kyana has a legendary magic item, which is
Pretty
the
nice.
multi-class is not breaking things. It's just the game has a very broken way of calculating combat balance. It's not very broken. It gets you on the bullseye, but it's just the game's too complicated to really dial in that exactly.
Yeah.
It's my opinion.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Hell yeah. We are coming about up on time for the stream. I think we can fit in one last question here before we send everyone off to their respective evenings.
1 short hour?
that really
I mean, that seems cruel to the fans, honestly.
Well, feel free to really make a meal out of this question.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
This question comes in the chat from Scripsy Abiete, I think. How would the cast react when given a baby? They have to keep it alive.
Very important condition. All right. Good to know.
Baby has to live.
I immediately know Dani's answer. I think she'd be a terrible influence, but a great babysitter because she would build like the world's ultimate stroller or one of those like baby sit-in-em situations.
Usually refer. Are we referring to the characters or the actors?
Well, I actually babysat in real life. I'm assuming they mean the crew of the Paraspro because.
I mean, I assume too.
I've kept many babies alive. That was my whole job all through high school. I babysat. I'm great at it.
I have never once gotten a baby killed. We're doing great so far.
I would be concerned if any of us.
I think we're 0 for 5 in terms of relation to baby deaths.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, like characters. No, I think Dani would be really good at it only because she would just build like the world's ultimate like stroller or one of those like little, what are the things you can sit a baby in and they can like bounce in it and then they're surrounded by like little things.
Oh,
yeah. She would just build like the world's best one of those and then it becomes completely autonomous childcare.
One of those little baby Yoda spheres.
Yeah, that's what makes a great parent is getting a robot to take care of it for you.
It didn't say parent. It just said take care of a baby and not kill them. And I think by those parameters, Dani can succeed.
Yeah, Dani creates the first iPad baby.
As if, come on, we all know Casimir is going to be responsible for the first iPad baby.
That's so fair.
So right.
Man, I'm trying to think. Space Panini mentioned Emmy. Emmy is the baby. Emmy is not a baby. Emmy is like in her terrible twos to the toddler phase where she's like asking a lot of questions and very naive, and it's Virila's job as like kind of a mentor / like father-ish figure to make sure that all the questions are being answered in a morally right way and we're putting her on a good path.
I flash back to
something that Virila is very increasingly having a lot of difficulty doing, apparently.
I flash back to
looks terrible.
When we were at the Furbolg party and the little Furbolg kid asked you about the trees.
Yeah.
And it's just that on loop forever.
Yeah, but Virila, when given a baby, given how I just kind of like went into, like I hyperventilated just a little. When I heard the question, so my first gut instinct was to immediately start ingesting any and all content that I could about how to take care of a baby. So I think similar to Virila wedding planning, he would just try and absorb as much information as he can on how to take care of a baby so he doesn't fuck this up. Yeah, all right. That's him.
Kyana, Finbar / Voss. I don't know which one of you counts at this
Oh,
point.
do not put
Voss with the baby?
Do not put
Oh
Voss
God.
baby. Absolutely not. Last thing you want to do. Last
Oh
thing you
my
want to do.
goodness.
Finbar,
guys-
on the other hand, he's grown up around a big family. Like, he's taking care of kids before.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
within his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know the Batman Beyond episode where Terry has to take care of the egg baby, but he also has to do
Oh my
Batman
God,
stuff?
of course.
I
Yes.
feel like that's just the
Kyana.
Kyana experience.
Kiana was
She's
made
like,
for
there's gonna
baby
be-
Bjorn.
There's gonna be like absolutely no hijinks today, but it's like, nope, 2 of the arms for holding the baby, the other 2 arms for punching the things that are trying to stop the baby from being a baby.
All
Austin,
right,
would you like to pick
we're-
an NPC to discuss their child character
Oh, yeah.
abilities of?
I just got a very vivid image in my head of like Cressida being like, no thank you, and just putting it down
Yeah,
on
there,
a chair.
there are
and, like,
certain
walking
NPCs that I
away.
would like.
That's it.
There are certain NPCs that I would like to see put in the situation. The ones that come to mind are Cressida, Casimir, Maxim, Cyprius, and Stranger.
Did you-
No,
Stranger
yes.
with
I
you.
mean, okay, don't give Stranger a baby. Like, we all have fun with Stranger, but like,
No.
Stranger
You
wouldn't
know-
even realize it was there.
Have you guys seen like the
Maxim
videos
is very,
of like
is very funny because Maxim would be like, very like against the notion and always like. Maxim would keep insisting that this is terrible, it's a terrible setup, he's gonna be terrible, and then I think would be quite good at like he'd be like Marlin from beginning of Finding Nemo, where it's like that dude needs to loosen up, obviously, but we could like in general he's a good dad, you know.
I was gonna say it's like those videos of like father birds that like have to take care of their chicks but don't really know how, and it's like, I brought you an entire worm. Why have you not figured out how to eat it? Which is the equivalent of like a dad giving a baby a rotisserie chicken and being like, all right, eat up.
Basically.
Yeah.
How many
He would
of
figure
those
it out.
bird
He's a
videos
smart
have
guy.
you watched? That's not a reference I could ever call up.
Only like 3. You know how
Recently, or is this just like a
No,
core
this is
memory
just-
for you?
it's just lodged in my brain. You know how
Huh.
I get.
All right.
It's because
Yeah,
it was in a lengthy Tumblr post that had some amusing observations on the parenting skills of dad bird.
Very funny.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, don't give Cressida also doesn't want a kid. It's like,
Lula's
it's like
enough.
that's terrible. Yeah, I feel some of them would have. Hero would be a terrible parent because they would spoil the baby rotten. That baby would want for nothing and would grow up to be a terror. But yeah, I think those are probably the most. Who else did you mention, Noir? Don't give Cyprius a baby either. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
don't-
Cyprius again?
Cyprius is
Doofenshmirtz.
stupid.
He's Doofenshmirtz.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, don't
that
give
would be
Cyprius
bad.
a baby.
I think I
Honestly,
mentioned
though, that would be a very fun origin story for like a wild magic sorcerer or something. You go home and his one parent is this absolute little mad scientist kobold.
There's just a kobold shoving potions down a
Let me
baby's
just
throat.
write this down for future reference.
Like, that goes down easy, eh?
All right, to kind of
Baby
bring
starts
this,
going all Jack attacks.
Oh boy.
to put this in like
Uh,
a
What a way to become a
slightly
wild magic sorcerer.
to put this in a to bring this
All
in a
right, new
slightly
backup character.
to put this in a
Yes,
slightly
for
grim
real.
direction. What's the over under on Voss eating the baby?
No,
Oh, Christ.
stop thinking about it. Just say no.
Honestly, it's almost guaranteed. I'll tell you that
Jeez.
right now.
Don't give
It's-
Voss a baby, guys.
Don't give
just-
us a
Voss a
baby.
baby.
And on that very important life lesson, I think we are coming to the end of the stream now.
Only if he's
Um,
stuck in a
I want to
survival
give a quick
situation.
shout out to Canathar Music. What became of the magic item they found at the end of season 1? They forgot they have it. They don't know
Wait,
where it is.
what?
So.
Amulet?
Wait,
What?
Yeah, correct. Don't worry about
Chat,
it.
quick, tell us what it was.
Whoa, whoa,
It
whoa,
was,
I thought
it was
I
an amulet,
thought they were.
wasn't it? There was like a
Was that what
or a
amulet?
brooch, or there was some
Was there not
chest
a
thing.
was there not like a periap to health? I thought that was found in the Dragon's Lair at the end of season 2 that
No,
Finbar
they're
has.
talking about the thing you got off one of the mind flayers or the monks at the one of the mind flayers at the
Oh.
you guys you
Shit.
never
Chat,
lost
come on.
it. You
Chat,
don't
tell
have
us.
it anymore. It's
Chat.
gone.
Hey, Co, can you get on those timestamps real quick? And... Or you know what? Let me check if Rare Girl is on it.
Okay, well, on that note, I guess.
No,
Yeah, Curse
no.
of the Amulet, quite literally. Joke's on me for naming the one-shot that. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you have a question that wasn't answered, please feel free to email it in to rollwithdifficulty@gmail.com. We will do our best to answer it, but given all of our respective schedules, that may take a little bit of time. I apologize for any delays. regular episodes resume next week. We'll be back with the wedding of Finbar and Elise, and totally nothing's gonna go wrong. It's gonna be great. We're all gonna have a great time. I thank you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for having a good time. Thanks for listening. If you listen and you want to support the podcast, Patreon's a great way to do that. You also get a lot of really cool bonus stuff. And if you just want to hang out with more folks from the community, keep chatting, rolling with difficulty, share some theories, head on over to the Discord, where there's a really fantastic group of people making cool stuff, talking cool stuff, hanging out. It's a great time. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you